So this is one of the shots that we have. I'll play it for you. So I guess we can get started on this one. First thing I like to do is mask out everything that we don't need to key. And so I'll duplicate, and I like to use Mocha. And this just allows us to create masks, track them, but have very minimal keyframes so we can adjust as we need to. So what I'd like to do, yeah.
What's the goal with this shot? Are you trying to make like a winter wonderland?
Okay, yes, that's exactly what we're doing. So the scene is set up. We are inside of a cabin, and we have 3 shots that we're going to go over today. 2 of them are inside the cabin looking out, and one is Santa Claus on a sleigh flying through the air. And so right now the goal is to key the background and get a really good key, and then we'll take it into Blender, track it, and then we'll move it into Unreal Engine and I guess build the world. Yeah.
So the elements you have now is the interior of the cabin, and then is that background like a 360 world?
Yeah, this is a blue screen.
So this is the
Yes.
first shot.
Yep. And I wasn't there on set to supervise this, so you can tell that the blue screen's a little too close. It's not evenly lit, and they also didn't decrease the shutter angle to minimize motion blur, but we'll kind of work around that. So yeah, let's get going. So we'll track everything that's not in the blue. We're gonna just mask around and then track it.
Is this just the standard Mocha?
Standard, that comes with After Effects, yep. And track. Wow. So I typically like it to go all the way to the end, even if it messes up, and then I'll go through and adjust a couple of frames. So we'll see it. Luckily, I've already done this, so I'm gonna, show little bits and pieces instead of having to, instead of having to go through this entire thing like this, because this commercial, these 3 shots took me probably 5 or 6 days, and that's with building the 3D environment. So the whole goal is to mask out everything aside from this blue area. So we would just continue going like this, go up, make another here, and we track all of this in, probably one more down here. Like that. And we're going to pretend we tracked it all in. Come out. And what you end up getting is this. Right here. Yep. So that's just our foreground now, and then we'll work on, looks like I did 2 keys on this one. So, turn that off. And we used regular key light here. So I'll just do it again, just so you guys can see. We'll go into key light plus key cleaner, pick background. Now it's not going to be beautiful, but go down to screen matte, and you don't really want to touch the gain or the balance when you're keying. And you want to go to clip black and clip white and play with these. Clip white, you're going to get back the detail. Clip black, you're going to remove the blue. Then I always go down here and make sure that I'm checking the alpha. So you can zoom in here and see how our key is looking. So I'm mainly concerned about everything right inside here. Out here, we already have it masked, so it's not going to be a big deal. Even this right here. So come back out, and when you add in your mask, brings back that detail. And then we went ahead and we lost a little bit of detail here, you can see. So I did a second key, bringing back some of that key. And so there is our first key. Now I know you're looking at all this blue and you're like, what is this? So what I like to do is I don't like to use this footage. I like to use this footage as a matte, and then I use the original shot and I use an alpha matte to this layer. So I'll show you how that looks. Come back out here. Here's the original footage with no matte, but got it. Yeah, there it is. So this key matte is exactly what we just did. So we'll take the original footage, we'll track matte it to the key matte, and now we have clean footage that is keyed, but we're not using any key light on this actual shot. And so I use Primac Keyer for the spill killer. Now you can use advanced spill killer, and that's just native to After Effects, but I prefer Primat. It gives me a slightly cleaner look. So, yep, and that's through Red Giant, and so you can see it before and after. So now that we have a good clean key, depending on what your background looks like, if it's bright or if it's dark. If it was dark like this, we would have an issue right here and we would want to address that. But because we have such a bright background, this is actually going to make it look a little bit better and cleaner. So now we can go ahead and get this tracked in. You could do it straight from After Effects, but then you run into the problem, there's not a way for you to take tracked data from After Effects into Unreal Engine. So you have to go through either Cinema 4D or Blender. And I prefer using Blender for tracking anyways, just because After Effects is kind of like you push a button and it does its thing and gives you a result. And then there's a few ways you can tweak that tracking, but it's not very procedural. You can't do too much with it. So I like to bring it into Blender and track it in Blender. But
so is that key matte, is that still referencing your key lights, or did you?
yes. So I'll show you. This is the.
So it's just pre-comp.
Yep. You pre-comp it, and because once you add in the key light, you can have dead pixels, even if it looks perfect. You can have these dancing dead pixels in it, and so to mitigate that, you want to use a clean original shot of the footage, the source footage, and just use an alpha matte. So you can, and that's the reason why we do that. Yep. Yeah. So there's right here under track matte. You just pick whip it and go up here, and then turn off that layer. And now everything that's keyed in here, the source footage is going to show up where the alpha is. And let's look at the other shot.
So they just had a better
Pet reindeer and Santa Claus, yep.
It's the window.
Yeah.
Did he just do that, or did they do something to make him do that?
They put some stuff on the window, yeah, yeah. Some good tasting stuff, yep. And so that's,
Just didn't have any color or like texture to it?
yeah, it was just like see-through, yeah, and you can kind of see it right here,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's hilarious.
And the third shot is Santa flying. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, let it play for a second.
So is that your Unreal background?
Yeah, so that's the Unreal Engine background. This was shot on a blue screen. I'll show it to you in a second. This is what we're going to be making. If it'll load. Now, in this shot, it's taking a little while because we have snow that is in Unreal Engine, but we had to have some foreground snow going past him. So I used trap code particular from Red Giant and created the foreground snow, and that's what's causing it to lag, because it's a particle system and uses a lot from the CPU. There we go. And so they're only going to be using probably like just that 1 second from this shot, but they sent me the whole thing, so I had fun animating the turn as well. You know, why not? One of the biggest problems I had on this shot was they did not decrease the shutter angle. So we have a lot of motion blur, and trying to get these reins, when he's moving them super fast, they basically disappear. But, you know.
So is that something you do on any green screen, is have a higher shutter angle?
Absolutely, yeah. And then we just bring back the motion blur through post. Yep. Okay. So let's get into Blender now. Okay.
So what are you bringing into Blender? Is it just exported with alpha information, like video like that? Or
So I will.
can you import the project itself?
No, you have to. So in order for your time interpolation not to mess with the tracking, you need to export the original source file into a PNG sequence. And then you take the PNG sequence into Blender and go into motion tracking. And we'll track it. So let me file. Cool.
So why do we motion track in Blender? Why not just, again, motion track with like After Effects or Advanced?
So you can't go directly from After Effects into Unreal Engine.
That's the bridge.
Yep.
Okay.
So the bridge is going into Blender. You can track it in After Effects, and then you know how Cinema 4D is connected with. Yeah. So you can bring it into Cinema 4D and then export it into either a USD, FBX, or an Olympic file, and then you can bring that into Unreal Engine. I've done both ways. I've just found that it's a bit more accurate if you go into Blender and go directly to Unreal Engine from that. Yeah, the tracking data, because once we get into Unreal Engine, I'll show you guys, sometimes the keyframe from your 3D camera, the keyframes are not lined up, and so you have to manually line them up, and I'll show you how that works as well. But has anybody here used Blender before? No? Oh, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Made the donut. You have to make the donut. That's a requirement. I've made the donut many times. Yes. So once you get into Blender, we'll just start a new scene. You can't see. Go up here. This is my PNG. Open clip. Delete all these. And what we want to do is make sure that we know roughly what the lens, focal length. Yeah, so this was shot on, I believe, a 24 millimeter lens. And so Blender has a good way to guess what lens it's working on. But basically, we just go in here and find some good high contrast spots. I'll click there, scale it up a little bit, click these chocolate chips, and add in a bunch of these. Some in the background, some up here.
So are these like track markers?
So these, yes, you can do an auto detect, and I'll show you how that looks like.
So just click on anything that's not moving?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, avoid anything that is moving, and that's what's nice about Blender, where in After Effects, what normally you would want to do is you would mask this middle portion out where they are moving, and subtract it, pre-compose the layer, and then track it. Otherwise, your track will be messed up because the camera doesn't know if the camera is moving or if an object is moving inside. So we can detect features like this, but I don't like doing that because it sticks them everywhere, and then you gotta, delete them. But go through manually, adding them in, maybe increase the size, yeah.
And it's the same thing, just picking a high contrast plane.
Yep,
Tracking.
and just stick them, and we'll run it. So now it's tracking for us. Oh. Make sure you click all of them and then track. That's important. But you see how much faster this is compared to After Effects. After Effects, you're sitting there for 4 or 5 minutes sometimes, depending on the length of the clip, in order to track it. So now that we have a track, let's see how it did. It's probably not very good.
And is that because it's a PNG sequence, so it's just a series of like stills instead of animation? Is that why it's faster?
Not necessarily. The reason why we do the PNG instead of just bringing in the MOV, I guess, is if they shot it on 23.976, there's a frame drop somewhere, and the time interpolation, it'll cause your keyframes to shift, yeah. And so you won't have like perfect tracks. This down here shows us how good our track is. You want it to be pretty stable and not jittery, and so we can go in and solve it. So we'll go ahead and see what that solves us. 410, that's terrible, okay? We want this under like 0.5. And so we're gonna go in and clean up this track, clean up, and we're gonna tell it, let's see, delete everything with an error of 1 or above. Filter track, select delete segments, and clean track. And then solve again. 2.63, so we're going down. Now let's decrease that to like 0.8. You don't want to just start off at 0.8. You want to start off on a higher margin, solve it, see what it comes down to, and then gradually go down. Let's see what that, 3.9, that did worst. 324, yes, that's what we definitely don't want. So we'll go back to the other one. Once we have a good, decent track, this one is 0.3. So we have a good track. Go up here. I created this little window to be able to show us what the track looks like. And we want to bring that into Unreal Engine as well, just to get a frame of reference for scale. And here's our ground plane down here. And you can see the window, and it's perfectly tracked in there now. And so
did that also guess on the focal length?
yes, yep, it did guess the focal length, and it was like, let's see.
So does that just guess automatically based on the track that it pulls?
Yes, and it also guesses the lens distortion. And once you're working on anamorphic lenses, there's a whole separate step that you have to take. Yeah, you have to de-squeeze it and then track it and then do all of your CGI in the de-squeezed version and then bring it back and re-squeeze it essentially, yeah. So we'll take this, go into export, and we export a USD scene that has our camera, our ground, and our little window. And once we have that, then we are ready to go into Unreal Engine.
So when you export that, are you checking those layers?
Yeah.
Fold them in?
So once you're in Blender, make sure you have the camera selected, the ground,
Like just highlighted?
highlight it, and cube, go File, Export, USD, and then go Selected Only. And everything else can stay the same, and then choose where you want it to, and then export it. And I already have it exported, so we should be good there. Now, the tricky part is when you are in Blender, once you have the tracked scene, sometimes the camera is not perfectly aligned. Sometimes it'll be like facing down, right, or like facing up. And what you need to do is you need to grab everything, and you can physically rotate it. And the image is going to stay the same, but you want to have it on the horizon. And so when you get into Unreal Engine, it's not, looking all over and trying to mess with it in there. So
Are you rotating the world or the camera?
I'm clicking on the camera, and I'm rotating it. And yep. And so, initially the camera was like facing down, and so I had to literally like move the camera and just straighten it out basically. And
When you do this tracking in other projects, do you always build out some sort of like solid in order to
yeah,
help?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it really helps to have something for a reference. So once we take it into Unreal Engine, because the camera is going to have a perfect track, but if your camera is too high above the ground, then the ground is not going to look like it's moving correctly, even though the track is perfect. And so having a ground plane is definitely a must. And then building out as much as you can, especially if you have things that you're putting in, let's say we were just working in Unreal Engine and we had to put in some more trees back there. You would use the ground plane and this window, you would create the curtains as well. And these can be just like rough shapes, right? And you can use them for an obscuration layer. So then you don't have to do any rotoscoping or anything like that. Your CGI is already obscured by the 3D geometry that you built. and it allows you to have less steps, I guess. You know, it makes it much easier. But it's used for a shadow catcher. So if you place your CGI into the scene, let's say we had to put in another lamp here, I would want to model out a rough table as well as these muffins and pine cone. And it could be just like the pine cone could be you take a circle or a sphere and just elongate it a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but yes, bunch of donuts everywhere. Everything is a donut, yes. And so, yeah, so we'll go from here and we'll go into the fun world of Unreal Engine. And Unreal Engine is a game engine. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it or have used it, but it's not very intuitive with film, okay? So there's like, I'll show you how to import green screen footage into Unreal Engine, and it's like 12 steps. Like it's a joke, yeah. They're trying to streamline it because more filmmakers are using it, especially for virtual production. But I started using it in like music videos where, you know, we'd film the rapper or artist on a green screen, and then we would put them into the Unreal Engine, the 3D world. And so you kind of just had to work around a lot of nuanced things that should be streamlined, but they're not yet. And so with these two shots, this one and this one, they are, the camera's moving, so they had to be tracked in. With the sound of flying, I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, so on this one, look how many keys I've had to do. There's a total of 8 keys. Yeah, so very important to shoot your scene correctly. Otherwise, the VFX artist has to spend a tremendous amount of time fixing it. But we'll just take a look at, yeah. So, yeah. So that was our initial scene, and there you go. And you can see the motion blur, watch, like this. This is a disaster, trying to key.
So if you were to shoot this, would you, first you would fix your shutter problem, but would you also shoot it for like a not as shallow depth of field and add that later, or?
Yes, there's, I wouldn't use a shallow depth of field. I would move the blue screen further back, and I would light it more evenly. And when I light a green screen or a blue screen, so let's say it's a blue screen, I'll light it with blue light. It makes that color really pop, and it's much easier to key. Plus, blue or green light on a green screen reflects a little bit less. Even though it doesn't look like it on set, white light will reflect a lot more than, so then you won't have as much bleeding on your key, and you don't have to address that. But with the motion blur, his beard was a disaster with moving through with the wind, so you really want to make sure that that shutter angle is cranked way low and you have no motion blur. But, cool. So now let's get into I do because of Unreal Engine. Yep. So Unreal Engine, it prefers PC. It works on a Mac, but a lot of the plugins for it won't work on a Mac. And so I have an iMac at home, but I had to get a PC once I really got into Unreal Engine, which was about, say, 4 years ago. And yeah, it just runs smoother. Plus, it's kind of nice where you can just swap out the GPU anytime you want or any other components. So I've been enjoying it.
How much RAM and what kind of GPU do you recommend for?
For VFX, I would say 32 gigs would be, as far as RAM goes, would be like the minimum. As far as GPU goes, I've ran. GPU is probably the most important, but although cores do affect it as well. I've ran it on a 3080 GPU, and it did decent, especially if they're not massive scenes. But once you get into virtual production, the whole point of virtual production is you have to have the frame rate of the scene that you're building at least 60. So if it drops below 60, then you're going to see some stuttering when you're moving the camera, especially fast. And so when you're building your scene, you have to make sure that you're optimizing it, and that's one of the downfalls to it. It's like a trade-off, right? And so depending on what your scene is, you want to detail whatever's closest to your camera, and whatever's far away, you want to use very low poly stuff. Although Unreal Engine has nanite, and what nanite is things that are closest to the camera use the highest poly count, and then everything that's further away, it downgrades it procedurally inside of the actual. Yeah, I mean, every single update that they come out with is insane. And there's still so much, especially for filmmaking, it's like barely starting. So we're going to see a lot of improvements. All right. So this is one of the scenes. Ooh. Super fast. I'll show you what it looks like from up above. These are just static meshes. All right. And down here is our landscape. All of this is foliage, and Unreal Engine is really awesome. So main thing is you need assets, right? You don't want to be modeling all this stuff. And so there's a website, it's called Fab, and you can go on it, and there's a ton of free stuff, just like I got all of these trees, and textures and everything like that. So it's pretty easy. And then obviously there's the paid stuff that you can pay in much higher quality, AAA rated, meant for games and everything like that. But yep.
Do those models come in with the animations, like the trees glowing, thing?
Some do, some don't. And you have to create what they're called blueprints. It's basically programming for Unreal Engine and scripting. And you can find blueprints on Reddit, and it kind of gives you a map, and you can just follow it and create it. But some assets do have it, some don't. So the fun part of trying to get in your USD. So
Is Fab Creative Commons or Creative?
So yeah, the free stuff is Creative Commons, and then you can purchase nicer stuff that is licensed. Yeah. And there's multiple licenses you can select depending on where it's broadcast and how many people it's being shown to and everything like that. So with this, we can do a lot of fun stuff. So we can go into the landscape and try to be as organized as I can. But with the landscape, we can sculpt it. So I'll just show you, let's say over here. We can sculpt. Eee. Lower it, smooth it out. Um,
It's like dawn.
so yeah, it's like Sims. That's how I always described it. It's like Sims. You literally just, it's like, or Minecraft, yeah. Yeah, yeah, high resolution Minecraft. So what I normally do is do a rough block out. So I knew this was a cabin, and I figured, okay, we're gonna have maybe like a little trail coming in like this, and a little open area where the cabin would be. I don't like to make things that aren't going to be seen in the scene, so there's no point in putting in a cabin here or anything like that. But if you're doing virtual production, you might need it. But you can also, so between sculpting, and that's what I did here. I built up these side walls and banks, and then you can go into paint, and you can choose whatever textures that you want to paint on. So I chose a bunch of textures that were snow-based. So some that were fully covered, and then some that show a little bit of leaves, but are still snow-covered. And so you click on what you want. Let's make this a lot smaller. And then you can paint. Pew. And you just paint a little trail. And so it's kind of, very artistic based, whatever you think looks good. And I use a plugin, which if you're ever using Unreal Engine, I would recommend this plugin. It's called Dash, right here. Create worlds with Dash. And this allows you to do a lot of cool stuff. So I'll show you how you can go in, and it has AI built into it. And what I mean by AI is it's an AI that knows the documentation of this. So you can put in like create a camera. So, and it'll tell you how to create a camera, or create water, or whatever you can think of, or if you're trying to make it but you don't know how, you can literally ask it and it'll tell you. So it's super handy. This also allows you to scatter objects. So when we go into foliage mode, we have a ton of different foliage that I've added, and you can click on it, and then you can add it in. Let's see. Whee! Trees. So you paint them in wherever you'd like.
And it automatically goes from the ground level?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
And the ground layer?
ground layer, and they'll automatically go straight up. And you can change it where it's depending on if you're on a hill and you want it to orient towards the normals, then it will be bent. But trees are typically straight up. So we don't want to do that. And this is the same way if you want to paint grass in, you would do the same thing. You would just choose different foliage actors and place them in and be able to.
Do you have to specify how large your world is?
Yes, and that is very important. When you can go and create, so in landscape manage, you can click on new, and you can choose just
What are the properties? Like just XY values, or is it like actual dimensions?
no, it's, I think, Unreal Engine, I think it's in centimeters. And so every centimeter is like 1 meter. And so this is the size of our landscape right here. And so if I didn't have background, this would, you see, and that's where our landscape ends. And the bigger the landscape, the more that resources your computer has. So right now we're running at 120 frames per second, which is extremely optimal. And you want to keep an eye on this, because if you dump a very large environment and you dump a lot of foliage in it, your frame rate is going to drop. It's going to tank. And so, yeah, it'll crash your project depending on your PC or Mac, but you always want to look out for that, especially when you're building worlds for virtual production. There's a lot of different ways that you can optimize it once you're using Unreal Engine for virtual production, but it's very taxing depending on what you're using. So we go, that's the landscape and foliage. Now let me show you how to bring in some green screen, because that's probably the most that you'll be using. So we'll go up, Window, Virtual Production, USD Stage, and open Contour, go into Blender, Tracking USD, Reindeer, Santa Claus, cool, open. There's our camera, our ground, and it's called Cube, but it's that window. And we want to now go to Action and Import. And we'll create a new folder for it. Press OK. And import. Now you can get rid of the USD stage. Now we got to find where it imported it. I think it's back here. Yep. Reindeer, Santa. USD. Yeah. So then you just bring it over. Yeah, the closest thing you can do is you can just add in like a cube right here, copy paste the attributes, and then just paste it onto that, and it'll just position it where it is. But yeah, it just populates randomly. Like I said, the Unreal Engine's not meant for us filmmakers, but we've hacked our way into it. Now they can't get rid of us. So now they're having to accommodate us, which is nice. But so there's your ground plane, and this is why I was saying it's very important to have that ground plane so you know the height of where your camera is going to be in relation to your ground. And so you can get a very accurate. So that looks great. So that brought in the camera, which is tracked. Now we have to do the 12 steps to bring in. No. Yeah. And this took me, I swear this took me like 4 projects to figure out the correct way to do this. Because there wasn't very many tutorials when I was starting out as far as filmmaking with Unreal Engine. And so you kind of just had to dink around and figure it out. Luckily, there's some decent ones now that you can follow, and they give this exact breakdown that I'm going to show you guys. But so once we brought in that USD export from Blender, it created what's called a level sequence, and this level sequence is what we are going to be using as filmmakers. So this is your sequence where it has your camera and it has all your tracked keyframes inside that camera. So you can see right here, it is perfectly tracked. Now, in order for us to bring in our footage, I'm going to go out here, and we have to create a media player, and click this so it creates a texture as well. We'll call it media player Santa Workshop. And that creates a texture for you as well. Now we need to create a material. Which will be Santa Workshop. And in the material, want to open it up. It's node-based system, so you click on here, and we want to go to switch it from opaque to masked, default lit to unlit, and two side. And we'll save that, apply it. Perfect. Come back out here. Now we need to create, everything is under media. Medium. And then file, image file, media source, image media source. And this will be the PNG sequence that you imported into Blender for tracking. Now we're gonna bring it into here. So I already rendered it for us keyed, so we can see what it looks like in here. And one of the many workarounds, what you need to do, find the sequence path. And normally you would think, okay, well, wherever I saved this, I think it's under, sec. PNG, thank you. Reindeer, Santa, and we have a keyed one. Now, in order for you to be able to bring it into Unreal Engine, you have to copy this from your like I said, there's so many steps. So you can't just go into, you can't open it from there. You have to take your footage, you have to take this, copy it, just Control-C, copied, and then you go into wherever your Unreal Engine program is, and this is the save file for the Unreal Engine project. You got to go into Content, and you have to create a new folder and call it Movies. It has to be spelled movies, just like this, capital M. So you can imagine my frustration when I was trying to learn this. And it will not work any other way. So you create a folder called Movies in your content folder, and you paste in your Santa Claus reindeer keyed footage, Rec 709. That's what I exported it as. Yeah.
Not referencing its
Yep.
actual
So
copy.
now you
Actual
have a
copy.
second copy of the exact same thing. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And then we can go into sequence path and pick it from the movies and Dear Santa, keyed. I think this is it. Okay, perfect. Another thing. Once you copy it in there, it's going to make two copies of it. It's going to make the initial PNG sequence copy, but then it's also going to create a Unreal Engine asset path. And I just clicked on that one. If you click on this one, it does not work. So you have to go back and click the original, which is the PNG sequence, and click Open. Yeah. Like I said, it's. I just keep both, but you have to have both of those, the PNG sequence plus the Unreal Engine asset in the movies in order for it to work. Yeah, so it's very strange. But now we're showing up that our image sequence has our footage. We'll go into the media player click our footage. Boom, there we are. Great. Save it. And then go back to media texture. It's there. And now we got to bring in this texture into here. Duplicate it. The bottom copy is going to go alpha into opacity mask. And then the top layer, you're going to go into emissive color. And boom, it shows up now in a material. Now, once we save this, apply it, come back out, there's more. There's more stuff. Yes. I know. Bear with me. Now, we have to go in here, go to all, search for this thing called media bundle. And right here, you have a media bundle. Go to your camera, drag in that media into your camera. So small, okay. So drag this media bundle into your camera component, and boom, we have our media. But we got to change the media bundle. Go in here, click on plane, click up here, and then you're going to pick out your material that we created earlier. So you're going to go Santa Workshop material. There it is. Compile, save. And again, this is all just to bring in the green screen footage. Like, it's frustrating, but once it works, it's really nice. All right, so we're getting somewhere. Now, go down here. We have to add in a camera cut track and bring this camera down in here. Create a new media, media track. There it is. Go in here, media source, and you're going to click your Santa Workshop. There it is. Right click, go into properties, make sure your media source is your media workshop, and you also have to go to down here, use external media player. So click that, go into Santa Workshop, and
The one that you created?
the one that we created, yep. And now you got to go here and do the same thing. So Workshop and Santa Workshop, okay.
So if you had multiple elements, would they each have their own material? You have to do all these steps, or just the materials?
Yes, so I had 3 shots in this commercial, and I had to do that step 3 times. Yep.
And then so if you're doing like a video composite of different layers on top of other video
Like if you
layers
had
and that
two green screen assets in
Yeah.
this scene.
So with that, yes, you would you would have to. But normally, you know, not a lot of times are you bringing in the footage and exporting it all composited in here. So we're just using the green screen footage here as a way for us to get a reference for the track, make sure everything looks good, place it to where we want, and so you could see outside the window and figure out, okay, exactly where is the CGI, what it looks like and if it looks good. And then we export this without the green screen footage, bring it back into After Effects, and then composite it there.
Okay.
Yeah. So. It's dancing. I'm just gonna. Do us a favor. Okay.
So is that just a problem of where the ground level is positioned? Just clicking essentially?
No, it's just you have a lot of crashes and,
Oh.
and like I said, it's not meant for this. So there's constantly you have to save, and there are going to be crashes. Yeah, especially when you're working with this this stuff. But let me go back in. So we're almost to be able to see the footage. I know it seems like a pain. Yeah. That's why when I agreed to this, I was like, I don't know how much I can do in 2 hours, because this takes me like days to get through, and I got to get my coffee and get into the zone. So I figured we'd just do a broad overview, and if you guys ever decide to get into it or need some help, you guys can always hit me up, and I'm happy to help. And
Do you rage quit a lot? Like,
yeah, I've went through a few keyboards. Yeah, this one's surviving. It's got a couple keys missing. Yeah, I got a couple on standby just in case, Yeah, yeah, it gets frustrating. Although sometimes I only use Blender, and you can make this exact environment in Blender as well. It's just what's nice about Unreal Engine is it's real-time rendering. So you're able to see all of this in real time, whereas in Blender, you render out a frame so you could see it in path tracing, and then you go back into the shaded model and then adjust anything you need, and then you render out again, and you just keep doing that until you find something that works for you. Where this is just anything that you place in here, it's exactly how it's going to look when you export it, which is nice. All right, so where are we at? Okay. So we got to go back to that media bundle. Plane, and we're going to switch it to perfect. Okay.
so what did you do there, if you don't mind?
I went into the media bundle to make sure that the media player that we created, it was referencing in our sequencer.
Okay.
Yep. And so now we can see our footage with our tracked camera working. And it's a little slow, but you can see it. Whee! So another very important step that what you want to do, I already did it here, but I'm going to show you. When you bring in your camera and all of your keyframes, highlight them, right click, and you want to snap to frame. And this is going to make sure that the keyframes from Blender match exactly to your sequencer here. A very important step. And yeah, and then we are looking good. Again, this is just as a reference for us. So when we go to export, we just turn this layer off by going to your camera. reindeer, camera, to click on the media bundle and turn off its visibility. Boom. And then we render it out like this. So that was for the reindeer lick. I will show you guys what we did for the Santa Claus scene. Any questions so far? I know it's a lot, and I'm barely skimming over it, but any questions, concerns? No? Okay.
I mean, there's tons of questions, but there's, like, it's all about all of the intermediary steps.
Yeah.
Just
You can spend a few weeks just scanning the keyboard.
Yeah. And Unreal Engine is so fun. There's so many resources. There's already pre-built environments. So let's say you're not really good at 3D, but you're still in visual effects and you want to kind of move into that 3D world. You can just go in and open up a already built scene and bring in your green screen footage, or just mess around in it, recreate something, and that's how I learned.
This is also, right, LED wall tracking is similar. You're just pulling in real-time tracking data.
Yep.
And then tying it to your environment, like pairing it to it in some way.
Yeah, so you would go under here, Window, Virtual Production, and you would click this live link, and your live link, then you would have a piece of hardware, and on the last one we used was, I think it was called Mars, and it plugs into the camera as well as into your computer, and so it has a link between these little hockey pucks. So there's the hockey pucks that you set up, and then you place one on top of the camera, and then you run that into the Mars system, plug that into the computer, you go into that live link, and then your virtual camera will be parented to the actual practical camera. And so, and there's, I'm making it sound more simple than it is, but yeah, and I had a lot of fun last summer. I spent May to September on 2 feature films up in North Dakota, and both of them had virtual production. And so on one of them, there you had 3 environments, and they were all snow, because there was a true story about this girl, 16-year-old girl, and her 2 siblings that get trapped in a blizzard, and it was like the worst blizzard in North Dakota history. And with filming with kids, obviously we couldn't do it in North Dakota blizzards, so they decided to do it on a virtual wall. And so they built the set, or many sets, and we were in a Kmart. It was an old Kmart. Yeah, they converted into a studio, so each section, you had the men's department was audio, and women. So they built a ton of stages, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I got to supervise the whole thing, and created the environments. And then on set, they built practical sets, but they were, a quarter of it was built. So let's say the house didn't have a roof, or the side of the house, so we placed green screen around that. We'd key it out, and then I'd reconstruct the house in 3D. And this is for stuff that we weren't like facing the LED wall, right? Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And virtual production is so much fun because, you create the environment, you go on set, you shoot it, and you're done as a VFX artist. You're like, sweet, no post, yes,
So your lighting and everything there, so it's all in camera.
Yeah, yep. You're doing everything. So you would work.
Matching the environment.
Yep. So you work closely to the. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you work closely with the cinematographer, and he lights his scene first, and then you bring up the wall, and then you blend your virtual to the practical set, and basically with every other shot, they would change their lighting setup, so then you would have to go in and change your lighting setup, and then they're asking you, oh, can you make the clouds more ominous? Can you change the sun position to, over here? Can you move this tree or add this in? And so the whole time you're just, behind the computer, creating, yeah, and then once it's shot, and it's awesome. But with that movie, we had a ton of visual effects that were not virtual production as well. So I spent 11 months working in post on that. It had 377 or 477 visual effect shots, not including any of the virtual production shots. So to give you a frame of reference, Godzilla had 900. So yeah. So it was a ton of work, and right now it's being premiered and it will be in theaters, and so that was a very exciting project. But it's called Hazel. Yep, Hazel, and then I have another one coming out in spring, which I'm working to finish right now. I have a December 20th deadline. It's 183 shots. It's a Western. And that was the second feature we shot up there with Canonical Productions in North Dakota, and that one's really cool. So we're hoping to see it in Sundance this year. So that one's called Medora, Empress of the Badlands. It's also a true story about the town of Medora in North Dakota, and the founder. He was this guy from I think France, and he was kind of like a swindler, like a con man, and he married into some money, and he was asking her dad to invest in his businesses in America, and then people found out he was conning, and they came after him, and yeah, so it was really cool, a lot of fun. So let's go look into the reindeer fly. It wants to think, it might have a crash on our hands, but oh, there it is. So how many of you guys use visual effects in your projects currently? Yeah, a lot, for sure. And are you a visual effects artist as well?
No, I'm just producing a movie that's using visual
Oh,
effects.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I figure I'd get an understanding of how it works.
Yeah.
And better know how to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any questions?
Do you understand?
Not at the moment. I am following along pretty vaguely because our VFX director kind of walked through a few things.
Nice.
But I don't have any questions right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just let me know if you do.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn off the snow for a second so we can see what we're doing here. Okay. All right. So this is essentially like a dolly rig rail, right? Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, it has everything that you would normally have in the real world. You have cranes as well, and so then you parent your camera to the dolly track, and then it's much easier for you to animate along a path instead of trying to keyframe this camera going. And it's much harder to see visually. So what I did was I took the dolly track and created this path. They wanted the Santa Claus to be flying through the air very quickly, blizzardy, and let's see how that is looking for us. Santa fly. Go into our level sequence. Now we're going to, again, search for that media bundle and content all. Click on it, and we're going to change it to our Santa fly. Santa fly. Compile and save. And it's probably not visible, so let's look that up. Yay, there he is. And again, I'm not going to be exporting with him in it. It's just for frame of reference of when he like moves. You'll see. Wee. Wee. So what I did was take the camera rig rail. Here it is. And you animate the position of the rig rail. So you can move it start, beginning, and set 2 keyframes, pretty easy, from start to finish. And tell it the distance to go. Now, getting that camera rig rail, like I said, it's not really meant for a shot like this, but I found it to be the easiest way for us to animate the camera without having a bunch of keyframes. Now we only have 2 keyframes, and I added in a couple of keyframes to the camera itself for when he turns, from when it's banking. Because that camera rig rail does not have a banking or tilt option, you can orient it to match the rig rails. So if it's going up, the camera will face down, or you can leave it where it's not, where the camera will stay still no matter where it's going up or down. But I found it easier just to orient it to it, so you could have some more fun with. You can see how it looks up, looks down, without us having to actually animate the camera doing anything. Wee.
Drew a spline and then
Exactly. Yeah.
you time it to his performance.
Yes. Yep. So down here, you'll see I created trial and error.
Okay.
Yep. Trial and error. Yeah. I mean, this scene alone, not including creating the environment or anything. With this environment, it's slightly different than the other one, because the other one, we only had to detail that small section, where this is like a drone shot looking much larger landscape. I had to expand the landscape itself, add in a lot more trees, move the mountains way further back, and added more snow. But yeah, you can see where I have the rotation here, keyframe, so you can see it banking. Wee. Time to his performance. And that's the reason why we bring in that green screen footage, so we can see exactly what our talent is doing. And now I know it looks a little wonky because it's not turning with the footage, but once you export it and he's not turning like this, it looks really good.
And it's just the camera that you're rotating.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the camera's perspective.
Yep. So we have the distance traveled keyframed through the camera rig rail, and then the roll we keyframed individually. So anytime I'm animating, my whole goal is to have the least amount of keyframes possible. Makes life much easier when they have revisions or anything like that. And so when you want to export this, I should touch base on this. In After Effects, when you receive the initial footage, you want to ask either the DP or the colorist, what color profile it was shot on and what what they want it to be exported. And in After Effects, you want to go to Project Settings, Color. I use ACES for color transforms, and this was shot on a Sony FX3 in S-Log3. And the display color is Rec 709. Otherwise, you just see a very flat image, and you have to mess with it to get it to look decent. So we want to make sure that we export from Unreal Engine in S-Log3. And
Oh, that makes sense.
yep, so go in here.
Or else it'll mess up your color.
You'll have two different color spaces, and the colorist is going to hate your life. You know.
They just update those constantly in Unreal Engine?
You,
Camera profiles?
so you have to download the OCIO ACES config files, and once you have them downloaded on your desktop, you will go into, let's see.
Oh, as like your desktop profile?
You could put it on a hard drive or wherever, but just somewhere. I just stuck them on my desktop just so I have it readily available. And then you create a new blueprint. So you go in here, create a blueprint class, and you're going to look for what is it called? Right here, open color display, and it'll bring you to this file, the config file that I told you that you had to download from OCIO. You would look it up to see where it is, and then you go down here to your desired color spaces, and you can add as many as you want. So I added the Sony S-Log3, Rec 709, and sRGB, but you can also add in, go to ACES or Input, and you can go to RE or Canon or whatever you're shooting with, and choose whatever color profile that you're at. So once you have that, when you're exporting, you would go in here. We don't want a JPEG. We want an EXR, 16-bit. That's fine. We don't need multi-layer. Multi-layer is if we were trying to render out foreground, midground, background passes. And so then anti-aliasing, we want that. You would crank this up to like 32, and it's going to give you an error, but you have to override it. And if you have snow or anything like that, you want your warm-up count and your engine warm-up count, you want to set it up to pretty high. So basically, your scene is going to start rendering 256 frames before your actual footage is going to render, to populate all that snow coming in. Otherwise, you're going to, at the very beginning of your scene, it's going to be like no snow, and then all of a sudden, all of this snow. Then you're going to go into color output, and is enabled, config to your blueprint, and then transform source. You're going to click Rec 709, and we want the destination to be S-Log3, and disable tone curve. Won't let you. Obviously, make sure your output resolution matches your source file, and then save it to wherever you want to save it, and then export. Nice thing about Unreal Engine, that's why I was saying I use it a lot instead of Blender, is the exporting is so quick. It's like a minute, done. Yeah, like a huge scene like this with millions of polygons and 6 different particle systems, exports in like a minute.
So it justifies the imported
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. Cool. So we went over those, Unreal Engine, and this was just a very broad overview of Unreal Engine. Just in order for you to even be able to paint on the landscape like that, you have to create a whole blueprint and complete node tree for you to be able to do that. There's a few good tutorials out there that'll show you a breakdown, and once you follow it one time, you'll pretty much get the grasp of it. And then what's nice is you can also save this Dash plugin. It's like, I think it's like 15, 20 bucks a month. And it's so worth it because you can save all of your blueprints. So anytime you go into any other different file, instead of having to create a whole new landscape blueprint, you can just click the one that you made from that previous one, change out the textures. And so instead of a snow scene, you want it sand or whatever. You populate your sand textures and then paint on your new landscape. So if you're gonna have Unreal Engine work, I would recommend Dash highly. It is, I don't have time to get into it right now, but there's like physics involved in it. So let's say you want to populate a wagon that has a ton of firewood in it, right? So instead of dragging one piece of firewood and clicking and trying to adjust it, you would take one and then you would duplicate it inside Dash and then physics drop it, and it'll drop and react to your wagon, and has collision already built in and everything. It's
Do you select density of like the wagon and the materials like that, or does it just kind of
automatically anything that is in your scene, it will have a collision on it. So, and that's just straight out of the box. So now we go back into After Effects. Perfect. Got 20 more minutes and we're doing good on time. So with this one, we have our keyed footage. I bring in the background that we just exported, and so there's the background that we exported. Now we're going to do some light compositing. Added in, I brought down our shadows just a little bit, and another great plugin that I use for compositing is Red Giant's VFX suite, and it has Super Comp. And Red Giant's kind of expensive; it's like $600 a year, but it is so worth it. It saves you so much time. I'll show you. This is what it looks like. Just your keyed footage over the background plate. Adding in Super Comp. It's a small detail, but you see how it's super bright outside and you have your dark interior? Well, normally light would wrap around that. And so I use Super Comp. You can open a panel here, and it has a lot of little presets that you can use, and the one I used is Light Wrap 2. So you can see right here, I turn it off, I turn it back on, it just wraps the light around, yeah, the antlers and everything like that, and it just makes it a little more seamless. But what's nice about working with Unreal Engine and having your keyed footage, you see your keyed footage, you see the Unreal Engine environment, and then you adjust your lighting to that. So once you get into compositing, it's pretty much done for you, aside from a few tweaks here and there, But that was that scene. And reindeer flying. This one, oh yeah, this one had the snow. This is trap code particular, and this is our foreground snow. So our background looks like this. Already has the background snow in it. Whee! And so,
And that was from Unreal Engine?
yeah, all of this is from Unreal Engine, yep. And normally, if you don't want to use, a plugin, you can just use pre-rendered elements of snow. But in my case, I think I even have them here. Yeah, snow at camera wide. I'll show you what one looks like. I just didn't like the look of it, so I didn't end up using it.
So did you bring your motion blur back in After Effects?
Yes, I will show you where that is. So in this case, we have our keyed footage right here. And inside this, you have the source footage plus your key mat that we did earlier, right? And then you would pre-compose these two into one layer called keyed footage. Where is it? Yep, right here. And then you would add in your Real Smart Motion Blur. And that's also a plugin. There is a native, you can use Pixel Motion Blur in After Effects as well. But I found that Real Smart Motion Blur, Pixel Motion Blur basically blurs the entire key footage instead of just the pixels that are moving. And so Real Smart Motion Blur, I use it on anything that is green screen keyed. So then you have a natural looking key around anything that's moving. But that's the reason why we pre-compose those. Otherwise, it doesn't work correctly. And then I'll show you what particular looks like. And there it is. And so you can choose your emitter type, and I just did, spheres. Once you have the motion blur in it, it's going to elongate those anyways, and so it looks natural. Determine what the velocity is, particle type, opacity, color, environment, displacement fields, all of that. And then that's how you get the. That was through Red Giant, Trap Code Particular. Yep. So I'll use that for particle systems in After Effects. Yeah, yep, for the foreground elements. And Reindeer Lick, yeah, here's the background on this one. And with Super Comp, you can see what a difference it makes. You see it up there pretty good? Yeah. So. Well, those are the 3 scenes. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thanks for doing that. That was really
Yeah, absolutely. When they said, like, bring your laptop, I'm like, yeah, I'm a VFX artist. We don't work on laptops. Yeah, it's difficult to work on a laptop. I mean, it's difficult to work on this small of a screen. Anyways, at home I have huge.
Premiere, I have to have my timeline.
Yep.
Taking up one whole screen.
Yep.
Over here, and I can't work on it.
Yeah. And so it's all about efficiency, because you've seen how many steps there was just for that one thing. Once you get into 3D, it's, you're opening, especially in Unreal Engine, you're opening like 4 or 5 different windows, and you need to see what you're actually creating, but you also need to tweak all of the settings, yeah, and so it really helps to have that. But any questions? Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about like timelines, more specifically about each step of the process?
Yeah.
Like, to actually do it and make it the way that you wanted to.
Mhm.
How long does that usually take?
So for King, let's say keying this scene right here, it probably takes about 2 hours to get a good clean key. And depends on, so like the reindeer flying one, you can see how many different keys that I had to go through. So this one took probably 4 hours or so. And then once we got into Blender, tracking it, getting a good track, that was probably another 2 hours. Exporting into Unreal Engine, creating the 3D environment. I think I spent 2 days on the environment itself, and then another day of kind of just what I did right now, and animating and adding in the snow and making it look good. So these 3 shots took 6 days.
And Unreal took up the majority of that time.
Yes. Yep. 3D definitely is going to eat up your time.
This is like a 15-second spot, or
This was a 30-second. Yep, 30-second spot, and
a week's worth of work for a 30-second spot with all of the 3D modeling and
yep.
other stuff.
And it depends on the complexity of it as well. I've had 1 2-minute intro for that movie Hazel. Let me see if I have it. But their inspiration was from Forrest Gump, the intro where that feather is falling and the camera's tracking. It's a one shot all the way down to Tom Hanks and it landing on his foot. Well, they did the same thing, but they wanted a snowflake. The camera's looking up, and the snowflake comes from the top of the frame, and you kind of follow it. Camera starts panning down, and then or tilting down and tilting back up, and then it goes down. And once the camera came down to like a bird's eye view, you realized you were a couple thousand feet in the air, and you were following that snowflake. And then you go into the clouds, and the snowflake gets lost in the clouds with all of the other snowflakes, and you emerge down looking at North Dakota, and then you catch the snowflake again, and you continue following it. The title came up, and then it goes down, and the camera tilts down on top of a house, and it keeps tilting down onto a window, and you see a girl at the window, and the snowflake goes all the way down and hits the window. And that took 3 months. 3 months for that one shot. Yeah. It was definitely like one of my favorite shots I've ever done. So.
Yeah, what kind of stuff do you prefer to work on?
My favorite stuff is 3D. Anything with 3D. So whether it's like Blender doing set extensions or animation, rigging. We're getting there. No, what's nice about the technology these days is what I just showed you guys. Normally, it would have taken like 5 dudes to create that. But with the technology now, smaller studios like myself were able to get much bigger projects and still complete them within their deadline because of the technology advances in everything. Did you have a question?
I did have another question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I understand the different scenario in which you would use rotoscoping versus keying, like you showed us.
Okay, yeah.
Is it keying is for if it's like a solid plate background, like a green screen, blue screen? Rotoscoping, is that when you don't have the privilege of like a clear background and you have to like cut out the image specifically? Is that when it is?
Yes. Yep, that's exactly right. And there's multiple types of keying, so you don't have to have blue or green. You can have like light and dark. So let me just show you real quick an example. So in this,
Like in Dune, did they use brown?
you can do brown, and it could be black or white. So
Just don't want the other color in your shot.
yeah.
Which is why green, you very rarely see that green, and people wouldn't be wearing those.
Yep. I'll show you. So we're going to pretend this blue is not there. Okay, we're going to pretend the blue's not there, but we have a very dark foreground with a pretty bright background. So what you could do is you can go in here and do black and white, change it to black and white, and you would add levels, and you want to crank that and crank the blacks all the way down like this. And you duplicate the footage, delete this stuff. So this would be your original down here, and then this would be a matte. And so then you can use your track matte and now you have different types. But go back up to your matte and play with your levels, and you can.
So it seems like King is a little bit more flexible than what I was thinking. Like, even though there's like a gradient of colors, like working in white and blue, you can still kind of key out what you need to.
Yep. And then rotoscoping. You can do rotoscoping, you can do track masks, you can do alpha mats.
And you can work like together with that too, right? Like if you did a layer that was just keying and then maybe had like a giant like boom arm or something in it, you would rotoscope that out.
Yeah.
Like you did with the Santa flying, it looked like you had a couple of rotos
Yep.
layers in with your.
Exactly. So in here in the Santa flying, go in here. I'll show you. I had a few rotos. So once I had the initial key, it keyed out his hat, and there was just a lot of problems with it, right? And so I went in here and did a roto of his hat. So brought that detail back in, brought the detail back in with another roto on that, masked footage. So since this shot is on a tripod, the sled is not moving, so I just quickly masked around the sled and pulled that from it. And so you combine all of these keys and rotos. And ideally, you want just one key. When you have it lit correctly, you would just apply a key and it would, be perfect. That's in an ideal world. But when you're not there to supervise the shot, this is what you typically end up with, and you have to go through many different ways in order for you to get a solid key.
How long does that roto take? Does it completely depend on the shot, I imagine?
Yeah, it depends on the length of the shot and how much, software, computer, plus how much contrast you have between your foreground and what you're in your background. So let's say you're trying to get rid of or roto my hand. If it's a similar background to the color of my hand, the software's not going to be able to differentiate everything, so you have to manually frame by frame. But in other ways, I'll show you real quick. It's pretty quick. So you just go in your roto, double click it. There's his face. Cool hat, face, a little bit of beard. Let's roto that. You want to be in, you can do it in quarter resolution. It works obviously better in full resolution, but this is at quarter and it's very fast, but it's not going to be as accurate, right? But this, rotoing, keying, it can take up a significant amount of time depending on what your shot is and what you need. Yeah.
This is depending on like kind of an algorithm or even AI, but some things you have to do by hand. You
Yeah.
just make a choice.
Yeah.
It takes forever.
Literally just tracing.
Yep, literally tracing, yeah.
Sorry,
Frame by frame.
Yeah.
frame by frame.
Yeah.
The new beta version of Premiere, I've been pretty impressed with the auto key.
Yeah.
It's got you can have like a talking head sitting there talking, and it'll almost like what Zoom does.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
And it is, sometimes it'll nail it right on, other times, I make it start from scratch and go over because it doesn't quite get it. There's been a few times it's just completely nailed it. And
Resolve Studio
completely
is
cut the
good.
first cut.
Yeah, Resolve has a really good,
This is the beta version of Photoshop right now, like 26 point whatever.
nice.
So hopefully that'll be available on.
If you don't have to do wispy hairs, yeah, Resolve is
Yeah.
really good.
But yeah, I think we're on like Roto 3. Yeah, so Roto 3.0. And when I started, it was garbage. Garbage.
You would start out using it and
Yeah.
screw out doing
Yeah, it was faster to do it frame by frame.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to render.
Yeah. And now with 3.0, it's not bad. But yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can pull a key, even if it's not blue or green. Like I was saying, it's called a difference mat. So let's say they shot this and they removed the sled and the Santa Claus and they shot a plate of just the background. You can lay the source footage on top of the background and you can apply a difference key. And so it'll key out anything that is different between the source footage and the background. As long as your lighting doesn't change, it will key out your.
So that's how you would do old school plates now?
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yep. Yep. So when I first started out, I didn't have a green screen. I was shooting on my phone, so I would just set it up in somewhere where the lighting was not going to change. I would do my thing, run out of frame, let it capture the background, and then I would apply a difference mat, and it would key me out. Yeah. So.
So how did you get into this? Because it sounds like you just kind of made a pivot.
I did. I made a huge pivot. So I got into mortgages when I was 19, and I did that till I was 27, and that's when I quit and started doing this.
Were you doing just content creation?
No, I was a loan officer. So, and then I had a team of loan officers underneath me, and I had to market them. And so I wanted to learn an editing software. And I've never picked up a camera or edited in my life. So I, Google it, and After Effects popped up, and I was like, cool, that sounds great. Bought After Effects, and all the tutorials were visual effects. So I was like, okay, let me try that. So I had like a real estate agent like fly down a superhero shot, the house blows up behind him. Now, granted, they were very shitty when I started. And I was posting them, and my business started, blowing up, and people started asking me who was doing my videos, and I was like, oh, just me with my cell phone, and they're like, oh, we'll give you $5,000 to shoot a 30-second commercial. I was like, what? Really? So I did a couple, and I was like, babe, I'm gonna quit my very lucrative job to go be a filmmaker. And so and then from that, I literally just straight up quit. Moved in with my parents for 2 years with my wife, and the first 2 years was just straight grinding, man. I would stay up all night learning something and then apply it the next day, go film it, shoot it, and started with music videos. So I'd get, rappers would hit me up. I'd go to like Vegas or Atlanta or whatever. We'd film something. I'd go back and edit it, and it was like $500 or $1,000, per video. And I was just cranking those out like left and right. But it allowed me to get really good at visual effects. And then I met a couple of directors from LA, the Fackrell brothers. They also work here in Salt Lake. and they came up and kind of mentored me. They reviewed all of my videos, and by then I was like 2 years in, and I had a couple hundred videos with visual effects in it. And so they reviewed all my videos, and they're like, have you ever thought about just doing visual effects and not filming and doing everything else? I'm like, well, that's my favorite part, but is that a job? And they're like, yes, it's a job. I was like, really? You're gonna pay me just to do this part? I'm like, okay, I like it. So I started turning down projects that required me to film and be a one-man band and doing everything, to just doing visual effects, and slowly got with producers and directors, and jumped on projects, and slowly got away from music videos, got into commercials, and then short films, and then feature films from that. So, yeah, it's been a fun adventure, but now I love it because, you know, I get to create art for a living, which is really freaking cool. So, much more fun than mortgages.
Is there a particular resource that you'd recommend to dive deeper into this? Like, because I'll search YouTube like how to make, you know, a motion grab, like make a very specific style lower third or something, or like a title sequence, and a lot of it is just crap. It's not the same quality of stuff that is coming out in
Hmm.
like more professional work. Like, is there like a paid resource you'd recommend, or
There's a few paid resources. How I got started was, have you guys heard of Andrew Kramer? Video Copilot. Yep, I've done every single tutorial of Video Copilot, and this was when After Effects, it was like a different language to me. I would have to like pause the video and then go find that button, click it, and then resume. And I did that for the first like year. I had no idea how to use After Effects, but then after you start seeing things so many times, but yeah, Video Copilot, he has a ton of great tutorials, and they're all really good. There's,
Any idea what happened to him?
yeah, because he hasn't been updating his site. I check every once in a while. I'm like, oh, is there any plugins? Because how I got into 3D, I was in After Effects, and then through him, Element 3D, yep. And so, and then obviously, like After Effects, especially back then, it was like just garbage for rendering 3D. Like it just looked so fake, and like the lighting was just garbage. And so that's when I jumped into Blender, made a bunch of donuts, and and started figuring that out. And then Unreal Engine, when Unreal Engine 5 came out, that's when it really piqued my interest, because it was getting to the point where it was like, okay, yeah, yeah, yep. And so that was like 4 years ago for me. And once I saw some renders come out of it, I was like, oh, okay, I need to do this. And I opened up Unreal Engine, and I typically time lapse myself when I'm doing this. So you could see over the course of like 3 or 4 days, you know, building it over a time lapse. And I posted me creating like this little corridor sci-fi on a spaceship, right? And posted the time lapse of it, and then these guys, Greg Johnson and Aaron and Brent, they hit me up for a project. It was called Knights of the Cross, and it's a TV show, and we used Unreal Engine for like green screen stuff like this, and that was like my first step into Unreal Engine. And after that, I was like, ooh, this is a good tool to use. So yeah, that was my start of it. Any other questions?
I do have one final question.
Dude,
What would you say the biggest thing that filmmakers that aren't VFX artists don't understand about VFX? Like, what is the thing that you wish more filmmakers, maybe even producers, would understand about what it is you do?
that's a great question.
realistic.
Yeah, realistic timelines.
Shooting on
Yes, absolutely. What I would say is hire a VFX supervisor on set. That is going to be the biggest. It may cost a little bit up front, but it's going to save you a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time in post production. Because, like I said, I've worked with Larry Fong. I don't know if you guys know who Larry Fong is. He's a cinematographer, and he's done like Super 8. It's with Steven Spielberg. So we just did a commercial for the VA, the Veterans, U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, and they shot a green screen on miniatures with forced perspective, and Larry Fong himself didn't know the shutter rule on green screen. Yeah. I got the footage and I was like, what is this? They're like, please fix it. I'm like, oh. Yeah. So having a VFX supervisor, it doesn't matter how experienced your director or cinematographer is, they don't work in visual effects every day, and so they will miss things that are very crucial. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had one on the last one we did. It was just like the crunch and everything led to compromises, and then we're having to deal with it in post. So, but that is very helpful.
But I mean, a lot of my work goes from being on set, time crunch, and they're like, Tarek, can you just recreate this? I'm like, yep. They're okay, great. Shoot it to post, Yeah, yep. So that's where VFX comes in, definitely, because when you're on these bigger productions and they're spending $15,000 to $30,000 a day, screwing up a whole day is very expensive, So they try to pawn everything on us.
Are you concerned about AI at all?
My next question.
That was a great question as well. I wouldn't, not so concerned, more of excited, because the softwares that we're using, having AI implemented inside of it, it is allowing studios like myself to be able to take on bigger projects because everything's going much faster. It's going to replace all of this rotoscoping, and that's going to get rid of that. Yes, there's the AI generation, but generating images, if you ever work on a big feature, they are very particular on every single thing, and you trying to generate something that what the director or producer want is almost impossible.
And also like
Consistency, yeah. So, and I'm sure it's going to get much better, but in most cases that I'm using AI, it's like content-aware fill. You know what I mean? Like creating a background plate, and I don't know how people feel about AI that are going to be using it because of all the strikes, and they're trying to keep the whole generation thing out of it. So I haven't had anybody ask me to generate something in AI, luckily, but it is speeding up the workflow in a lot of different ways, and so it's helping, but I think a human person is still going to be required to be behind a keyboard.
Supervise the whole thing.
Yeah.
And tie out everything.
Yeah.
together.
That's the AI question. Yeah, that's where everybody's like,
Not worried about it yet.
yeah. But no, it's just like anything, you just pivot. We started from Photoshop, and now, if you told people that we're on Photoshop, like, oh, there's going to be Unreal Engine that just, create a whole 3D world, in hours, people would be like, oh, I'm out of a job, But you just adapt. But yeah, I'm excited for like that Dash plugin that I was showing you guys. You can literally type in like, how do I make the tree move in the foliage, and it'll like literally guide you through it.
So will it guide you through all of the steps?
Yes.
Like the key, like the click.
Yep.
things that
Yeah,
you
it'll
can-
say, you know,
Like the pathway?
yep, open up a blueprint.
Okay.
In blueprint, right click, do this, and it just literally breaks it up for you. So instead of trying to, because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now,
Do it for you.
no, it just tells you,
Gives you the road
yep,
instructions on it.
exactly. And so I'm sure it'll get to a point where it's like, I need the trees to move the trees, and you know, you're gonna get a wonky tree, you know, at first. Yeah. But no, great questions. Any others?
That was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you guys all came. Thank you. Thank you for having me.